Hey, everybody. Welcome to Why Am I Yelling Live? Happy Friday. We made it through another week. My name is Krista Rizzo. I am your host. And today my guest is Amber Yberra. She is a Reinvention Coach. She is an author. She is a fur mom to Zara, who I just met, who is the adorable 8-month-old puppy that she has. And she helps women gain clarity and momentum in their lives. And I'm really interested in knowing more about this because I'm a life coach. I specialize in relationships. And the foundations of them. So I feel like this is probably a good conversation to have around that. So welcome to our show. I'm very excited to have you here. My pleasure. We actually met through a challenge that we did. So the last several of my guests have been through a challenge that I did a couple months ago with a friend of ours. And so it's always lovely to meet people who are like-minded and come from a place of service. And especially right now in the climate that we're in, it's a little crazy and stressful, right? Yeah. So tell me what a reinvention coach, what do you specialize in? Because I know that you are primarily work with women, right? So yes. Tell me about this.
So yes, I do primarily work with women. I've coached a few men, but the different courses that I have and the one-on-one coaching that I have, what I really do is I help people get unstuck. Whether not, who cares about the circumstances? For me, that's what I always tell the people I work with. That is our number one excuse is I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the energy. And that is what I'm trying to help them get back. So what I really do is I help women get unstuck.
And so when you say unstuck, explain to the audience what that means.
Of course. So typically the people that come to me, they are in transition, whether it is on an emotional level, they are wanting to change careers because they're not fulfilled in the work that they're doing currently. We all have goals. We all have aspirations. And what I help these people do is really break it down to the basics of where are they spending their time? Who are they now? I help them not only keep accountability, which is very important because most of the time I tell people, and I have it on one of my podcast episodes, is all the information we're searching and looking for, it's really for us on the internet. We can Google, how can we reinvent ourselves? We can Google, what is the A to Z to starting a business? But to figure those things out and to get our own lives aligned with that and in order and everything in sync. There's so much more that goes into it. If you're going to run a business like myself, I've been a business owner for 6 years now. When I'm not doing good personally, my business is feeling that and vice versa. So a lot of the women I help, they're entrepreneurs as well. And a lot of that is about blocking out time. They're juggling family life, whether they have kids or they don't have kids. So I help them get back to the basics. I help them get a true understanding of where they are now, because most of the time, the way we see ourselves is a perception. We want people to like us. We're perceiving ourselves as, you know what, I'm a good human and I'm doing my best. Yes, we might be feeling like we're doing our best now, but what could better look like? And how can we go from good to great? And so all of that is a process, and I help them walk through that process.
I love that. And I love that, better is good, but better is, how can I be better? Right.
Yeah.
And I think especially right now, a lot of us are going through, there's a lot of change and a lot of, I'm calling this the temporary normal. I hate when people say the new normal because I'm like, I'm not going to be homeschooling my children for the rest of my life. Please. Oh, right. Yeah. So, since the beginning of this, I've been calling this the temporary normal. I'm calling it a holding pattern, right? I feel like it helps. It's given my clients just a different perspective on it, because when somebody calls us a new normal, it's like, oh my gosh, this is how we're going to be living forever, right?
That could be very scary for sure.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of it is a mindset thing, right? I'm sure you do a lot of mindset work with your coaching.
Yes, 80%.
How did you come into Reinvention Coaching?
That is a phenomenal question. And I'm happy to share that because to me, I've spent so much time, energy, money, hiring coaches myself. And I've only been in this field for 2 years, going strong at it, because the company that I've owned for 6 years is I run a construction company. And my journey in doing that is is pretty long, but the short part of it is I had to go through so many transformations myself.
Yeah.
I went from, kind of going all the way back from being a person in a small town an hour away from Mexico is where I grew up in Uvalde, Texas, and having to grow up the way that I did, graduate early so that I can move for some bigger opportunities, reinventing myself at a very young age and realizing that I'm not all the things that maybe people, peers put on me, or that my parents thought, no, you're going to stay here. You're going to go to school. My mom worked at the college, so I had the opportunity to pretty much get a free ride almost through college.
That's amazing.
But I didn't go that route. So there's a lot of pressure to succeed, because it's like, if you didn't get an education, how are you planning to be successful? Right. And there weren't these people on the internet. We didn't have Instagram at the time. I mean, I remember in high school, I graduated in 2005 to put an age on myself. But like, we still had maps, right? Like, to think that we've progressed that much. But anyhow, moving along, I went from a small town to being a model. And then I had a modeling career for 6 years. I traveled the world. It was amazing. I was signed with Elite Model Management. I did the curves modeling thing for a while. And then I was like, and then I went through this transition phase of, I want to be more than just my body and take pretty pictures. And I started discovering, what do I like? And a very important piece of this I like to share with the people that I work with is, I went through this phase that probably lasted 3 whole years. I was a painter. I studied photography. I did online, marketing when it was just beginning. And my mom used to always say, why are you doing so many things? Like, you don't want to be a jack of all trade, master of none.
Right.
And that kind of scared me. But what I found in that was that it gave me the opportunity to find out what I liked as a hobby and what I wanted to transition and turn into as a career. Yep. And so to me, that time was so vital. Even though I didn't come out the other end wanting to be a photographer the rest of my life, bless their hearts, that is some hard work.
It is.
There's so much, back production in that. But all the other things that I went through, it only helped me on my journey to discover what I wanted to do forever, what the long game was. Yeah. And so when I got into construction, there was another time I had I'm going from this whole other world to, oh my gosh, I'm going to stay in one city and build this business when my whole life has been moving from place to place to place. And I love that lifestyle. And to answer your question better, all of these things and all of these experiences I've gone through and all the different, from 180-degree turnaround in different industries taught me that in order to do that, it takes a next level of mindset. It takes a next level of finding clarity in who you are, what fulfills you. You have to really shift your habits and your community of people that support you and give you that energy to be able to move in the direction that you're supposed to be to have a fulfilled life. And that's what I've discovered this whole time. All these times I've reinvented myself so much. And I feel like I'm in a place that all the things I'm doing, it's finally for the long run. It's for the long haul. I have found my thing. And I found so many people speaking at high schools and things too. The number one question is always, how do I find my purpose? Right. How do I find the thing I want to do forever? And so that's what I want to help people do, whatever age they're in, whatever circumstances they're in, especially now, they're so uncertain.
Yep.
It's, to me, I'm looking at it as more of a blessing. It's a blessing that we get to, we're starting from scratch. All of our worlds, they just got shook. Yep. And how are we going to take that and make it into our benefit? So I hope that answers some of your questions.
I love it. No, I think it's great. And I'm particularly intrigued by this because I'm old enough to be your mother. Oh, by the way, I had my first child in 2005. So
amazing.
But a lot of my one-on-one clients are millennial women. And I find that if you are a woman or a human, a man or a woman or whatever of a certain age, you were raised differently than, let's say, your parents raised you or I am raising my children.
Oh, so
I find that women who are younger, millennials, Gen Z, whatever the next gen is, you guys are all very aware of yourselves. right? I was not aware of myself when I was your age, or maybe a little bit younger, when I was, a teenager in my 20s or whatever. It was always about making the right impression for everybody else. It wasn't about making the right impression for me. And I think that having an awareness and knowing that the opportunity out there to reinvent yourself from a young age is okay, right? Like when I graduated from high school and college, it was like, okay, I have to get a job and I have to have insurance and I have to have this and then I have to get married and I have to have, because that was the plan that was like taught to me.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me to say, wait a minute. I mean, it kind of did, because I was on that track, and then that track I cut it short, and I was like, I'm moving to New York, and like, I'm not doing this, right? I'm going back to where I'm from. But I admire people who know, like, much earlier in their game, in their life, that it's like, nope, I want to try all of these things. And I'm cool with reinventing myself. It's not something to be afraid of. And I think that's my point, right? Don't be afraid of that.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So what's your advice to that, right? Like, don't be afraid of it, because reinvention is blank.
Well, first of all, I love one thing. I'm going to step back really quick, what you said earlier with kind of how you were raised versus maybe people in my age or generation might seem more self-aware. The thing about all that is we just have such an overload of information on the internet.
Without question.
So, and even when I was in my teens, like I mentioned, we had maps still. Like, I didn't have my first Nokia cell phone till I was, 16 years old.
Right.
But now we have all this information. But to me, whether you're younger generation, whether you're, 45, 50 and over, it's about what we do with that information. Because even right now, people, I'm 32. There are people, so many women and men my age, that we have the knowledge. We're paying for all of these courses, the people that have discovered self-development. It's one of those things that if you're in it and you love the impact it's had on your life, you almost become obsessed with it in a good way, because you're so involved. You see how it changes your perception. You see how it shifts your mindset. All of a sudden, especially with what we're doing, you're on the other side of, the United States. You're thousands of miles away from me. And yet we're able to connect and have this conversation. And I feel that what we do with that information is so vital, because common knowledge isn't always common practice. And so what we need to look at is, what are we practicing daily? I like to talk about what I call the 4 E's. It used to be the 3 E's, but I added emotional intelligence.
I like it.
Because that's so important. But it's about your effort, your energy, your environment, and your emotional intelligence. And I really feel if we focus on those 4 core principles, and we're able to really expand not just the knowledge of ourselves, but then it impacts the trajectory of our life. Because all of a sudden we realize, oh my gosh, when I'm around these particular people, I love them, but maybe I need to breaking it down to boundaries. Sure. Because I feel depleted, right? We have that, whether it's a family member, it's a friend, maybe it's, our significant other. Sometimes it's like having those tough conversations. But we really need to focus on protecting those things. It's not so scary to reinvent yourself when you think about it this way. You're already doing it, whether you wanted to or not. The last 60 days, you have reinvented your life from what it was.
Sure. Yeah.
What did that look like for you, right? That's the question I would ask myself, is what does that look like for you? And I want to preface it by saying I just posted the other day about, I was kind of feeling off kilter myself. Yeah. And I love to share that, because whether you're a coach, whether you're Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey, like, they have life coaches. We are all human. We all go through an array of emotions, and all of that is okay. And I think just finding that beautiful balance to dance with of what works for you to fill your cup is what's most important. And that takes a journey. So if you're younger and you're listening to this, don't freak out, because, we're in our 30s. I have my mom, who just I celebrated her 50th birthday. She's like my best friend. We're together a lot. She was in the house that my grandma raised her in, and that she grew up and raised us in. And at 50,
Right.
she finally decided to move into what she feels is the big city of San Antonio, and to quit, her job of, 16 years and like just start this beautiful new chapter. And I got to walk with her through that. And it's so amazing to see when, especially someone that close to you does something so major. And, I mean, I've gotten to see how she's shifted in her own life this way. And it's taken her 4 years. She thought about it 4 years ago. So go at your own pace. Don't be afraid of it. But it's all about taking those little steps. And also don't feel like it has to be this huge thing. Reinventing yourself isn't big and scary.
Yes. And I love that you say this, because I think a lot of people, when they, and maybe not now, because I think we've all learned over the last 3 or 4 months that stuff takes time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna quit your job one day and be a movie star the next day, right? It takes time to do all of these things. And I think that we, as humans, we put pressure on ourselves to say, like, I quit my job of 16 years, 6 years ago. Toxic environment, was terrible. I loved my job. I didn't love what was happening, right? So I had to reinvent myself, and I turned to coaching and got myself a coach, and then decided, I want to do this. This is what I want to do, right? So I started my business and all that stuff. And I was 41 when I did that. So, it has taken, and then you start your business and you start following people, and you're like, I want to be like them, and I want to be like that, and I want to do this. And you don't realize that it's going to take you X amount of years to get to even a part of their, like, that journey that you're following of somebody else. Right. So I think it's really important to encourage small steps and to talk about the timeline. Because people get discouraged very easily when they're not getting, like you said, we are very technology dependent now.
Yes, we are.
And I think we have all become needy of instant gratification.
Always. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why it's important to celebrate those small wins. It's, I always revert back to our health and wellness. It's like saying how many times have we told ourselves, oh, I just need to lose 10 pounds. But then we don't fix our diet or exercise. Hello. Right. So, like I mentioned, it's all a balance. It's all a juggle. And so it's kind of like that with mindset. If you tell yourself, get your accumulation of what you feel like are your bad habits, and you can't tell yourself, I'm going to quit the chocolate, quit smoking, start running 2 miles a day. Like it's never going to happen. Isn't it feel so overwhelming? Like, who wants to do that? Right.
So miserable.
So do the one thing. And an example of that is waking up 30 minutes earlier than you usually would. That doesn't feel like such a big step. Right. But do you know how much extra time in the day you're going to get? Because for that 30 minutes, instead of waking up to, oh my gosh, I'm going to rush and I didn't get to fix my hair, I'm just going to put it up in a bun, right? Like, I'm going to just do all these things in a rush. Like, that extra time, if you commit it to, I'm going to enjoy my cup of coffee this morning.
Right.
I feel like we underestimate what those small things can do for our life. And then the other big thing to me is the people we surround ourselves with. If you're in that, and believe me, I'm not saying it's easy. If you're in a toxic environment, and sometimes those things are work that we can't get away from, right? Yep. Sometimes you're in an office and you might love your title and the job that you do for the people that you work for, but then the people you're surrounded by are just constantly negative, and that drains you. I understand that it's not easy. I'm not saying pick up and leave, right?
Right.
But make those small changes. Practice, maybe listen to a positive podcast on the way to work. Prepare your mind for those things. Make sure you're interacting with people that feed you positively versus negatively. But all of those small steps will kind of make up the bigger picture of your life. And I want to ask you a question, actually.
Yeah.
What did you learn most when you went through this, hiring a coach? What made the difference? Do you feel like, oh, I kind of knew all the things already? Or what was the big thing that your coach helped you with?
So that's a great question. And nobody has ever asked me that question. I think that for me, it was, long story short, had like an overwhelmed breakdown, right? And 2 kids, married, big job, all the things.
Yeah.
And I just realized that I couldn't do it anymore. And so I knew that I needed to make a change. And I think the number one thing that I knew I needed to do was ask for help, which is not a bad thing. And I think that especially women, we have a hard time asking for help because we feel like it makes us feel weak. I can't do all the things because society tells me I have to be a wife and a mother and a this and a provider and all the things that we've chalked ourselves up to and we have put upon ourselves, right? We take that information and we're like, I have to be like this. When in real life, you don't.
No.
So I leaned on a coach when I was trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. So it wasn't even I was working with a career coach and we sat down and she was like, okay, I want you to take some self-assessments. So she gave me like all these, personality tests and things to do. And she said, and then I want you to I had been writing a blog called Why Am I Yelling? Clearly. And she said, I want you to just write a blog post about how you feel and how this whole situation and experience has been for you over the last, we were working together for a couple months by then, 2 months or whatever. And I was like, okay. And so and I'm a journaler, so I had been journaling. So I wrote a blog post about it. And then she said, and now think about how that's making you feel. And at that point I had started with reinventing my self-care, right? Putting myself first, making myself a priority, which I tell my people to do all the time, right? And so I think I learned from her how to take stock, right? How to take stock in the stuff that's important to me and how to evaluate what I needed for myself when I'm asking for help. And really just I still to this day, am in contact with her and stuff. And I think she's a lovely, wonderful, amazing human being. And she's she's not a life coach, but she's a career coach. And she helped me, get my career started. But I think, for me, it was really just her allowing me to have that time and not really, and saying to me, there's no wrong answer. Yeah. The answer that I'm not expecting you to come back to me with the job I need is a 6-figure job in corporate in this. Because I came back to her and I was like, I don't want that job anymore. Mm-hmm. And she was like, okay, then we have to figure out what it is that you want to do. And so I think just the allowance, when it goes, coaches allow freedom. Yeah. Right. We allow exploration. We allow thought process. And it's not, it's funny because people are always like, but I have a therapist. And I'm like, therapists are amazing. And I have a lot of them in my life. Right. Yeah. And they are very good at unpacking and dismantling and helping you deal with the stuff that happened over here. My job is to start where they're leaving off and help you get to the down the road piece by not having judgment, by allowing you to unpack, by allowing you to feel free. And I think when people understand that that's what we do collectively in the coaching world, their minds open up. Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. And I'm happy that you shared that because I've had a similar experience, and that's where I fell in love with helping people because I found how much that journey, someone holding my hand through that process, changed me. It literally saved my life. I was just so depressed. I was going through a business divorce at the time. I had a very successful company with an unsuccessful relationship. So I call that a business divorce because to me it's you have the paperwork, it takes an emotional toll on you. Starting from the ground up when, you had something that was working on paper. So going through that process and having someone help me through that made me want to help other women with that. And I've helped everything from, 20 plus women who are entrepreneurial and they're like, I don't know where to start. There's so much in the Instagram and Facebook and how do I do marketing to, really helping, like you mentioned, women unpack it because whatever we feel and the energy that we're going to exude out into our business is going to come from us first. And if we are empty, we will have nothing to give. And all of that starts from the basics. And then interesting enough, I've even helped women who have had kids and their kids are out of the house and now it's them and their husbands. And they're like, who am I without like soccer
100%.
practice, without like it, and yes, I haven't been through that before, but guess what? We are women and we are all relatable. And I love helping those kind of women as well discover what are the things that they enjoy again before those kiddos are, while they're a mom, right? They're that being a mom doesn't mean you don't have interests and that you don't have hobbies and that you're not maybe an amazing artist. Maybe you want to pick music back up. Maybe the jewelry that you've been designing, after soccer practice is something that we can help you turn into a business. That's what I love about working with so many different people. Everyone's life and situation is so different. So sometimes in these conversations, it's so hard to talk like on a general level. Because it's everyone's life is just, there's these intricate little moving parts that make up who we are, but we're all unique at the end of the day. And something we all thrive on, which is one of the common desires of humans, is connection. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to connect. We're here to let people know you're not alone in whatever journey you feel alone in, because I can promise you whatever you're going through, I know someone that has been there, done that. And guess what? They've survived through it. And you can also, but sometimes it takes that extra support. And I feel like that's what people like you and I are here for. Doesn't mean we don't have our own struggles, right? Like I mentioned, even Oprah has her life coach. Like we all do. And it's always great to get that different perspective from the outside in when we're in our own, storm, whatever that looks like for us.
Agreed. I think that I wish I had more time to talk to you. Let's talk about real quick. Let's talk about your, you have a podcast and you have a book and all the things. So tell us all about that stuff before we wrap. So
you got it.
You go.
Well, and here's the quick thing. I know we only have about a minute and a half or so, but you can really just find me. The place to find me and all the things that I'm doing is going to be on Instagram. That's where I thrive. That's where I love to be. My Instagram is just simply my name, Amber Yberra. Last name is Ybarra. And I'm so excited to talk about my podcast as well. It's called the Positive Platform Podcast. I put out a new episode every single Tuesday. I'm looking to do Tuesdays and Wednesdays because I have so many amazing minds coming on, and I want to share so much information. The Positive Platform Podcast isn't just about shedding light and positivity, but I truly bring people in. It's a little bit of a mix of lifestyle and business. So I love to be as tangible, like give you these tangible tools so that you don't only walk away feeling lighter and full of energy, but then you also have something to walk away with and say, you know what, I love this little takeaway. I'm going to put this into work and start my business. I really like to give people tools so that they can, make some big moves in their own life and career as well. So definitely check out the podcast. It's on iTunes and Spotify and all the places you can find podcasts. And so I'm excited for all the cool things, but yes, check me out there.
I love it. Yes. And all of her stuff is in the comment section right now. I just stuck it in there. So follow Amber. Amber, thank you so much. This was really fun. It was so nice to have you here.
I appreciate
this was
so
great.
Much. Yeah.
You stay right there. Everybody else who is watching or was watching later, thank you for watching. We always like to bring to you interesting, fun people. And Amber had a lot of really great information today. So I'm so thankful for that. And this will also be on my Instagram TV. So we're going to download that to upload to there and all the places. So have a great weekend, everybody. I hope the sun is shining where you are, and it's going to start shining where I am soon. And we'll be back here next Friday. Amber, you stay there. And we are waving goodbye to everybody there.
Yes.